A guilty verdict reached in connection to a fatal fire in a remote community. Good evening and thank you for joining us. 6 years after a tragic house fire in KI First Nation that claimed the lives of a mother and 4 children, the man accused of starting the fire has been found guilty of second-degree murder. Jonathan Wilson has the details.
47-year-old Archie McKay was arrested in December of 2020 on 5 counts of first-degree murder. The fatal house fire occurred May 2, 2019 in Kitchener-Maquisip, Ininewig, killing 47-year-old Geraldine Chapman, who was the spouse of the accused, as well as 12-year-old Angel McKay, 9-year-old Carl Cutfeet, 7-year-old Haley Chapman, and 6-year-old Shira Chapman. All 5 victims died of smoke inhalation. KI police and the OPP spent the next year and a half investigating the case before McKay was arrested. The court heard he was found with burns to his hands and face, likely due to the use of a fire accelerant. The lengthy trial in Kenora wrapped up in October. The judge released his verdict last week and found McKay guilty of second-degree murder related to the 5 deaths. There's no word yet on when the sentencing hearing will be held. Jonathan Wilson, TBT News.
In Thunder Bay, city staff are recommending that council once again implement changes to its parking policies. The proposal coming up this Monday night involves a new initiative which would give residents 2 hours of free on-street parking at all city meters. Parking spot users will also have the option to purchase an additional 2 hours on top of the complimentary ones. However, to keep track of things, drivers will still have to use the parking app or the payment kiosks. The change is meant to help improve parking turnover as well as to collect data on the spaces that are used and when. Corporate Services Commissioner Carrie Greaves says the parking changes they want to make also involve Marina Park.
We are, suggesting that council consider a 4-hour complimentary parking with the ability to purchase another 4 hours after that. So for a total of 8 hours. It allows for people to go out for more leisure activities, spend more time at the waterfront, and not have to worry about feeding the meter.
The proposals will be brought to council on Monday. If approved, the initiative will run until the end of 2027. Thousands of Thunder Bay households will start making the switch to automated garbage collection carts as early as this fall. The long-awaited changes were brought up during Monday night's council meeting, where city staff updated council members on various waste management upgrades they're hoping to see over the next few years. Jessica Clement has the details.
The switch from having city employees manually empty garbage bins to automated garbage carts was one of the topics brought up during Monday night's council meeting. The new carts will be similar to the recycling ones rolled out last summer. The soft launch for garbage carts will begin in the fall for roughly 10,000 single-family homes, with the remaining 40,000 plus households seeing the switch by the spring. Recycling Services Manager Jason Sherband says lessons have been learned from the recycling changes last year.
We've learned a lot right from the implementation phase last summer, through the winter, just in terms of the collection and some of the challenges and successes. So to your question, yes, we are learning and asking questions and understanding how it's working in the community on the recycling side.
Sherband notes the city is also looking to implement a curbside collection program for food and organic waste. However, that won't be in place until later next year.
The organics piece, as it sits here today, we've got a tentative start date of fall of 26, but that will be dependent on the processing piece and securing that.
Sherband says the negotiated request for proposal for the organics facility is out, but couldn't provide details on an official location when asked by Councillor Michael Zucchino. Once the organics curbside collection implementation is complete, Sherband says the city will move regular garbage collection to every other week.
Organics would be weekly, and then we would move garbage collection to every other week. In Thunder Bay, when we did the 4-season waste audit, so just looking at what people put at the curb through all 4 seasons, when you package up food waste in leaf and yard, it's about 50%, so about half about what we put out at the curb. So when you have an ample leaf and yard program and you've got food waste and recycling and everything and you're participating, the reality is that most communities will move to every other week.
Jessica Clement, TBT News.
Unlike Thunder Bay, many cities in Ontario are behind on their housing targets. CTV's Siobhan Morris reports on the discourse regarding this issue at Queen's Park today.
With Ontario falling further behind on its goal of building 1.5 million homes by 2031, the government's taking another crack at kickstarting the effort.
It takes too long and it costs too much to get shovels in the ground. So the initiatives we're going to introduce next week have everything to do with speed and lowering costs.
That will include getting involved in which studies developers have to do to satisfy municipalities. And there will be changes to the development charges builders pay. The housing minister says those charges are an important tool to pay for things like roads and sewers.
But they can't be punitive. In some cases, they're too high, and we need to make sure that they're not hurting the cash flow of getting home builders getting shovels in the ground.
The Green leader thinks there's room for change, but with a caveat.
We don't want to take the burden of that infrastructure off of new home buyers and put it on existing homeowners.
The former mayor of Mississauga turned Liberal leader sees what's coming as provincial overreach.
These are the responsibilities of municipalities who understand their communities, who understand where to put density and intensification.
The government will also give King Asurma, the Minister of Infrastructure, new power to issue Minister Zoning Orders, or MZOs. They allow development proposals to skip some parts of the planning process, usually hammered out at the municipal level.
This minister has a terrible track record. I don't think she can be trusted with that power. I'm very deeply concerned about it.
Minister Flack insists there will be a backstop.
The MZO due diligence will still be done in my ministry, so it's about speed and getting shovels in the ground faster.
In December, the Auditor General slammed the way the government's been issuing MZOs, saying more than 100 were approved through an ad hoc process, and in many cases, they didn't accelerate construction at all. At Queen's Park, Siobhan Morris, CTV News.
Members of Rocky Bay First Nation and the people who provide the community's child and family services are holding protests over funding cuts by the band and the impact that it will have on the support programs they rely on. Pickets were set up this morning at the Rocky Bay Child and Family Services office on South Court Street and at the one on the Reserve north of Nipigon. The offices provide aid to Rocky Bay members and their children on and off the Reserve who are experiencing family violence or struggling with maintaining a healthy lifestyle. The protesters say a meeting was held yesterday to announce the funding cuts to various programs, so they decided to take quick action to bring attention to what's happening.
The agency, which represents the people and children in the community here, are caught between the First Nation governance and ISK in terms of funding, not unlike a Jordan's principle. So as these bodies argue this out over who should fund, it's the children and families that are going to suffer here.
We should be heard, and nobody's listening. We've been to band meetings, and there's been motions that are supposed to happen, and they happen, and nothing happens. So it's just like, what about our voices? What about off reserve? We always get told, well, you're off reserve, but we matter. We're on the membership list. We all belong together.
It's a much needed services, and it's, for us to help our membership to heal. That's the main thing why we're stepping up as a Rocky Bay Child and Family Services, is to get everybody back on a healing journey.
The chief of Rocky Bay, Gladys Thompson, did not reply to a request for comment today. 2 teenagers have been arrested by Dryden OPP after they allegedly stole a vehicle and then fled from police at high speed. It all started just before 3 o'clock in the morning Wednesday. Officers used a spike belt along Highway 17 to stop the vehicle, which then crashed into a marked OPP cruiser. A 16-year-old from Lac-Seul First Nation and a 15-year-old from Pickle Lake are facing a long list of charges. The Thunder Bay Police Traffic Unit has had a very busy few days, with 7 motorists charged with stunt driving over a 2-day span earlier this week. One of the people pulled over was also charged with driving while impaired. Constable Tarm Armstrong spoke about the traffic blitz in a social media post.
Just wrapping up a 2-day enforcement initiative that the traffic unit's been doing. We've been conducting enforcement activities all across the city, and it's yielded some very significant results. Just wrapping up tonight, the tow truck just left up here. We're up on Onion Lake Road. So in a couple hours up here, I think we charged a couple dozen drivers with speeding, as well as 3 with stunt driving. One of those stunt drivers had also been drinking, and it was issued a warrant range suspension for having a blood alcohol concentration between 50 and 80 milligrams. So alcohol mixed with speed was extra concerning. Those 3 stunt drivers up here were actually 3 of 6 from the day alone. Members stopped 6 different drivers and charged them with stunt driving today all across the city. One of those, the first one was just for 8 this morning on Waterloo, and that driver was ultimately arrested for impaired operation, faces a significant number of criminal and provincial offences charges, but was doing more than 40 over the speed limit and had a very highly elevated blood alcohol concentration. So very concerning behaviour. We're going to be continuing enforcement activities like this all across the city, and we'll have some more results on this project soon.
McDonald's restaurants across Canada and here in Thunder Bay are celebrating the 31st annual McHappy Day. Every order today provides essential support for area families who need to use the Ronald McDonald houses. McHappy Day is always held on May 8th, with 10% of all food and beverage sales throughout the day going directly towards helping families of sick or injured children who use the services of Ronald McDonald houses in London and Toronto. Customers can support the cause in person or by using McDelivery, which is free for only today. Local McDonald's officials say every purchase can make a real difference.
Today is all about McHappy Day, 8th of the May, helping families that are going through critical times and tough times. Everybody can help us by ordering any favorite food that you like from McDonald's. It gets really busy. Last year, we throughout McDonald's Canada, we donated $8.9 million.
Over the past 30 years, McHappy Day has helped raise more than $100 million across Canada for Ronald McDonald House charities. Well, and it certainly was a happy day for the skies. It was nice and sunny out there today, Fiona, but a little chilly as well.
Well, I think the sunshine kind of made up for those temperatures, though, because it was beautiful out there. I love a really bright blue sky, and it was gorgeous. Now, we did start the day below the freezing mark. -4 was our low. We warmed up to 9, which is well off from this time of year, what we should be seeing. But that was partially due to the cooler air coming in off the lake from the east, 13 at times up to 33 kilometers per hour. Now, the cooling trend north of Lake Superior and eastward, especially along the northeastern shores of Lake Superior, really that trend has been continuing and will continue for at least another 24 to 36 hours. As you can see, to the west, they're already in the 20s with loads of sunshine, 20 in Fort Francis, Kenora, 21 in Red Lake. Then we hit the teens, but still well in the high teens. It isn't until you hit Lake Nipigon and Armstrong, they're at 13, 15 in Greenstone, and then single digits for many areas. Grand Portage at this time, 7, 8 in Marathon, 7 in Sault Ste. Marie. And again, it's just because of the air off the lake. It is coming from the west in Sault Ste. Marie and coming in off the lake as you head further north. Here in the city of Thunder Bay, we are going to see an even colder night tonight than we saw last night. Not by a lot, but every little degree helps. -5 and a wind chill of -7 overnight under those clear skies. The good news is, Haley, that temperatures are going to be on the rise for tomorrow and through the weekend, but it's not going to be smooth sailing. We aren't going to see quite as much sunshine as we saw today as temperatures heat up tomorrow, and there's even a possibility we might see a little bit of rain.
Interesting. Well, mixed sky conditions. We'll be prepared for that. Enjoyed today's clearer skies, though.
Absolutely.